she said. It's okay. I'll just let Master Aiden take a look and then I'll return it to you. As soon as she heard that she had to give this thing to Aiden, the succubus instantly crumbled. She couldn't imagine what Aiden would think after seeing this thing. Then, the succubus hurriedly clung to the werewolf's leg. She said, Please, I beg you, don't do this. The werewolf said, But we werewolves are very fair. You are too suspicious. I must show this to Lord Aiden. The scene cuts back to Afshin. She has found the necromancer Asina. Because Afshin has long suspected that Aiden has become someone else. And Asina's dark magic can see through a person's soul state. But unfortunately, Aiden was soaked in the holy water of the church. If Asina uses dark magic to observe him, she is likely to suffer a backlash and become blind. But Asina also discovered Aiden's changes. Aiden started using a cane 2 months ago. Also, his right leg isn't very flexible. So if you can't beat him, you can definitely outrun him. Hearing this, Afshin felt more assured. After leaving behind a bottle of aging spell, she departed. The scene cuts back to Aiden. He looked helplessly at the items confiscated by the werewolf. Werewolf was also puzzled. She thought to herself, why does everyone act so strangely after seeing this thing? In the end, it was Flanda who told her the truth. Upon learning the reason, Werewolf wished he could find a hole to crawl into. To be clear, the reason she came here was because she liked Aiden. But whenever she thinks about how nice she is, she feels that her chances of being with Aiden are quite slim. Suddenly she smelled something. In that instant, she jolted. She was very familiar with this scent. Back when she was in the police academy, the teacher had often instructed her. In the fallen god-forbidden area, a plant called a funeral flower grows. This flower can control other people's bodies, and even their thoughts. And the racial war 100 years ago was caused by that evil god. But now she actually smelled the scent of this flower in prison. And the source of the smell was actually the vomit of a poisoned convict. This also means that they have already consumed the funeral flower, and this is something that only the Ant Queen can obtain. Just then, Gilala rushed over. Lord Aiden, something bad has happened. Kim is missing. She kept shouting that she wanted to go find her mom. I couldn't stop her at all. At this moment, Aiden panicked. He knew it was the Ant Queen that had infiltrated the prison. Then he decisively issued the order for all personnel to enter level 1 combat readiness. Soon the prison's magic-suppressing circle was fully activated. The cell doors were promptly closed as well. At this moment, the jailers guarding the prisoners noticed something unusual. A prisoner actually used a bottle of potion to dissolve the lock on the cell door. The jailer quickly pulled out a pistol to try to stop her. But in the next second, 2 tentacles pierced through their bodies. It was the Ant Queen who made the move. At this moment, she also took off her disguise. Moreover, standing next to her was the missing Kim. Soon, all the prisoners of Riot Prisoner were released. The scene shifts to Warden Aiden's office. A guard shouts, "It's not good, Lord Aiden. All the rioting prisoners have broken out." A new juvenile delinquent used something and managed to melt the mithril lock. Upon hearing this, the governor of District 1 recalled that the 2 children received in the morning were likely intentionally arranged by Ant Queen. At this moment, Aiden spoke up. "Everyone, don't panic. It's not that easy for the prisoners to break through multiple checkpoints. Now, focus on your own tasks. Zone 2 and Zone 3 leaders, you are responsible for defending the cell block lobby. Make sure the guards only engage in long-range shooting. Avoid close combat. If you can't hold the line, retreat to the alert zone. Flanda and District 4 leader, you are responsible for operating the power core mechanism and the magic-suppressing circle to strike the prisoners. District 1 leader, you are responsible for logistics. Ensure that the power core has sufficient power. Werewolf, you are responsible for defending the prison power core and ensuring the safety of Flanda and District 4 leader. Everything is arranged. According to the regulations, when the prison alarm is sounded, City Silver's army must arrive for support within 15 minutes. But Anthony will definitely use his connections to stop it. So support is definitely not something we can count on. Just then, Aiden suddenly took out a small firework and set it off. It was a small gift from Sophia at the time. If needed, he could use the firework to summon her at any time. However, at this moment, Sophia had not yet put on her pants. After everything was arranged, Aiden picked up a notebook. This was his precautionary measure against Afshin. Not long ago, he had colluded with Flanda to use the notebook to scare Afshin at a critical moment. This was because Afshin was naturally cautious and timid. Then he pretended to stop Flanda. Before entering the power core, make sure to remember the things in the notes. As Aiden suspected, a little white mouse was hiding in the corner, quietly watching them. This made the timid Afshin nervous. She decided to go through the contents of the notebook before confronting Aiden. On the other hand, Succubus, upon learning the true identity of the Ant Queen, hid under the covers in fear. Unexpectedly, the Ant Queen did not intend to harm her, but wanted to take her along. Succubus hurriedly declined her offer. Seeing this, the Ant Queen felt it was a pity. After all, Succubus was one of the few people willing to stand by her. After sighing, she turned around and resumed the battle. Very soon, with her help, most of the rioting prisoners recovered a bit of their magic. Then, they collectively launched an attack on the cell door. But unfortunately, they were all bounced back by the door. At this moment, the Ant Queen took action again. She sprayed the aging spell onto the door. Gradually, the magic circle on the door dimmed. Meanwhile, on the other side of the door, the wardens were already prepared for battle. Every prison has a rule. Stopping a riot equals a sentence reduction. Life sentences can be converted to fixed-term sentences, and fixed-term sentences can be directly reduced by half. Standing opposite her, Kinga was full of anger. I don't care about sentence reductions. Those bastards hurt my Aya. I'm going to make them pay for it. Rose Prison welcomed the most intense riot in its history. The leader this time is the notorious Ant Queen. Under her leadership, riot prisoners inmates rushed out of their cells. And they used the aging spell to break through the constraints of the magic-suppressing circle in the prison. Just as they were urgently attacking the gate, Tiger Woman said, Ant Queen, the prisoners who caused trouble earlier are still locked in the confinement room. Let's go rescue them. Ant Queen looked indifferent. She said, What is the use of rescuing a few cripples? Tiger Woman said, But we are all in this together. Should we abandon them just because they are injured? Hearing this, Ant Queen laughed, and her laughter was very eerie. She said, Then you take the magic potion to teach them. Remember to drink the potion when you encounter danger. At the same time, under the continuous fierce attack, the door was also about to give in. Soon, the sound of an explosion was heard. The door was blasted into countless pieces. This completely ignited the prisoners' madness. The scene cuts to Flanda. As soon as the prisoners rushed out, she ordered the activation of Guarding Monster. And Guarding Monster has always been the prison's secret weapon. They are Raging Lion and Ice Golem. They are responsible for close combat melee. The Warden uses a rifle for long-range output. Of course, they fire paralysis darts. At this point, the leaders of the 2nd and 3rd districts couldn't sit still. Kinga, I've heard you are good at fighting, so let's go to the cell block section 1 together. At this moment, Kinga also removed her shackles. She had been prepared for a long time. A fierce battle was about to begin. The scene cuts to Warden Aiden. After using the restroom, Sophia hurried to the prison without delay. She also brought a lot of help for Aiden. A portion of the people have already stationed outside the prison. They are there to prevent the prisoners from breaking out. Another 100 people can directly enter the prison to suppress the inmates. She said, However, Warden, these are all very expensive. I don't know if the money in your wallet is enough. Aiden did not answer her. He just bowed his head and wrote something. This is a check for 10,000 gold pounds. I want all of your people. Additionally, I have a special task to assign to you. She said she is willing to serve Lord Aiden. The camera cuts back to Kinga. She is puzzled. Why did those two district chiefs disappear after coming in? At this moment, she is already surrounded. Just at this moment, the snake witch suddenly launched a sneak attack from behind. Kinga, caught off guard, was knocked to the ground. Then countless prisoners launched an attack on her. The area she was in instantly turned into a sea of fire. Surprisingly, Kinga didn't suffer any injuries. At this moment, something was clearly wrong with her. Her entire body was emitting a colorful glow. In an instant, countless bolts of lightning erupted from her body. The prisoner standing at the front suffered. This scene terrified the other prisoners. At this moment, the Ant Queen spoke. She said, "Step back. You can't defeat her. After all, Kinga has the record of single-handedly taking on 1,000 vampire knights." At this moment, Kinga suddenly moved. In the blink of an eye, she was in front of the Ant Queen. She said, "It seems you're very familiar with me, Isabella." "Of course. I have witnessed your heroic presence firsthand. An entire regiment of vampire breath knights was wiped out by you. But even so, you won't be a match for my daughter." Just at this moment, a sudden mutation occurred. A magic circle suddenly appeared in front of Kinga. Immediately afterwards, a large snake emerged and knocked her away. It was Witch Afshin taking action. The next second, she raised her hand again and sealed Kinga into the magic circle. Kinga was greatly puzzled. Could it be that even you intend to rebel and betray Aiden? Afshin did not pay attention to her. "Everyone, stop attacking. She is a follower of the ancient god Baal. The more severely injured she is, the more dangerous she becomes. However, she has been immobilized by me now. Everyone, just keep moving forward." Then she suddenly tugged the rope. On the other end of the rope was the poor Gilala. Afshin intended to use her intrinsic divine power to observe Aiden. At this moment, Kinga was feeling very distressed. She wasn't afraid of being beaten or injured, but she feared being restrained. Suddenly, she saw someone. That person was a young girl following behind the Ant Queen. Her thoughts went back to many years ago. Long ago, she had promised to help a group of helpless children. After she defeated the vampire, she would adopt them. Then, she would teach them skills so they could survive on their own. But when everything was over, she learned that the group of children had already been adopted. And today, she actually saw them here again, and they had become the daughters of the Ant Queen. At this moment, she couldn't take it anymore. She said, "Ant Queen, you bastard! How dare you use them for human experiments? I will never forgive you." The scope of the riot at Rose Prison has expanded again. Even the weird creature was forced to escape from the cell. And Kinga was completely plunged into a state of madness. The matter began with Tiger Woman. Before this, they wanted to rescue the Bird Woman gang, who were confined in the restricted area, before breaking out. After obtaining permission from the Ant Queen, they then made their way to the restricted area behind the prison. This place is specifically used to detain extremely dangerous prisoners. After a hard search, they successfully found several severely injured people. But then another problem arose. How should they break through? You must know that the outside is now full of jailers. At this time, Birdwoman suggested, "How about we let Wendy out first, and have her clear the way for us?" The Wendy she referred to was a tree monster that had been corrupted by the evil god, making her an extremely dangerous presence in the prison. While they were discussing, two figures were also quietly approaching. It was the leaders of Districts 2 and 3 who had arrived. They asked, "Who allowed you to come here?" As soon as these words were spoken, it instantly caused a few people to panic. At this moment, Tiger Woman spoke up. She said, "Don't be afraid. Let me handle them." It should be noted that Tiger Woman is considered a top-tier warrior of the orcs. She also possesses her own intrinsic divine power, which is primal awareness. Simply put, she can sense danger before it arrives. Therefore, theoretically, as long as she reacts quickly enough, she would be invincible in close combat. What puzzled Tiger Woman was that the surroundings of those two people were all radiating danger warnings. So, she decisively chickened out. She said, "Guys, in my opinion, we should just surrender together." But before she could finish her sentence, the foolish pig woman directly charged forward. Then she was instantly defeated by the leader of Districts 2 and 3. This scene left several prisoners dumbfounded. At that moment, Horned Woman suddenly said, "If we feed the potion given by the Ant Queen to Wendy, maybe she will be able to defeat the two of them after being strengthened." After everyone agreed, she and Bird Woman worked together to pour all the potion into Wendy's mouth. Then everyone was completely stunned as they saw Wendy's body start to rapidly inflate. Immediately after, a massive explosion occurred here. The entire confinement area was instantly shrouded in smoke. When the smoke slowly dissipated, the mutated version of Wendy made her dazzling appearance. She had now completely turned into an irrational monster. Meanwhile, Horned Woman reverted to her original form at the critical moment. She carried several people and ran desperately. The mutated version of Wendy, on the other hand, was desperately chasing after them. The camera cuts to Kinga. After being struck by the lightning released by the weird creature, she falls into her own memories. It was her mercenary group's last mission. She was deceived by the employer, and the entire mercenary group perished under the iron hooves of the vampire knights. In the end, she fought the entire vampire army alone. Although the result was that she won. But the mercenary group was left with only her and Aya. At the same time, Horned Woman arrived with Wendy. At the critical moment, Kinga finally woke up. Of course, she didn't forget to push Succubus away. And her seal was completely lifted at this moment. If you hit the like button and subscribe to my channel, you too can be as invincible as Kinga. But our Succubus was miserable. She bumped into the wall. Before she could even cry out in pain, a laser shot past her. And the laser was fired by the crazed Kinga. Our adorable Succubus was almost scared to death. At this moment, a pair of feet suddenly kicked open the cell door behind her. Then she was dragged inside like a dead pig by Junior Dragon Woman. But at the critical moment, her pants got caught. Before she could retrieve them, her poor pants were swept into ashes by the laser. Just like that, the Succubus cried, and she cried pitifully. She said, "Please go save Aiden. He can't hold on much longer." Junior Dragon Woman comforted her, saying, "Don't cry. What you just saw was only an illusion." Upon hearing this, the Succubus cried even more sorrowfully, saying, "That wasn't an illusion. It was a premonition. I saw my husband Aiden being defeated by a prisoner. I watched as he lay on the ground, barely hanging on. I never expected that all 250 prisoners would take turns raping him. The most important thing is that they didn't include me." At this moment, the battle between Kinga and Wendy has also reached a fever pitch. The entire prison was swept into the aftermath of the battle. At that moment, Weird Creature's cell door was suddenly kicked open. Afterward, she followed the main group to escape from this dangerous area. Warden Aiden was undoubtedly a failure at this moment. It would be his most proud henchman, Afshin. Now, however, he had become a vassal of the Ant Queen. Even the harmless necromancer Asina also chose to betray at the critical moment. Even the Kim he would carefully mentor also became the most loyal enforcer of the Ant Queen. Facing Kim, this little girl who is only 8 years old, the prison security zone completely lacked the ability to resist. Thus, the prisoners could leave here without any obstacles. At this moment, Ant Queen spoke up. "Teacher Afshin, I've always had a question. Why does the Witch Union prohibit transforming others? If we can produce a batch of weapons like Kim, wouldn't we be able to rule Fry Continent?" Afshin expressed her helplessness. She said, "You can try it, but let me warn you first. Since you have already embarked on the path of the evil god, please do not mention the Witch Union anymore. Also, do not tell others that Gaia and I are your teachers." Hearing this, the Ant Queen merely snorted coldly. In her heart, she no longer felt the need to rely on anyone. The scene shifts to Maddie. After the fall of the quarantine zone, she retreated all the way to the prison's power core with the warden. And the werewolf had been waiting here for a long time. A jailer raised a question at this moment. According to convention, once the prison alarm sounds, the army will arrive here within 15 minutes. But obviously, things did not develop this way. At the same time, the missing person Anthony finally reappeared. At this moment, he was inviting the army, which was supposed to support the prison, to drink. In his words, this uprising was just a performance by Lord Aiden. The purpose was to showcase his unparalleled strength. As soon as these words were spoken, none of the soldiers present had any doubt. After all, everyone knew that Aiden was the strongest man on the continent. But just at that moment, Anthony was suddenly attracted by a passing carriage. Inside, it was filled with power stones, the fuel needed for the operation of the prison's power core. Anthony quickly spoke out to stop him, but was told that the prison had purchased them at 3 times the price. This sentence directly stunned Anthony. It should be known that the prison's budget had already been cut. But where did Aiden get so much money from? In a place where he couldn't see, Sophia was leisurely drinking coffee. The scene shifts to Warden Aiden. Necromancer Asina is monitoring him at all times. She wants to witness Aiden taking action firsthand. But Aiden indicates that he is not in a hurry. He wants to see how well the warden's anti-riot drills have been practiced. But in reality, he was already panicking internally. Everything that is happening now was not part of his plan. If the power core gets breached, then this riot might actually succeed. But now, he has no other options. He can only try his best to act as if he has everything under control. Because if Asina finds out that he is not the real Aiden, she will definitely kill him without hesitation. Now he just hopes that no more unexpected incidents will occur. The scene cuts to action. Although everything is going smoothly with their actions so far, her naturally timid and cautious nature still makes her a bit worried. She fears that everything happening now is a trap set by Aiden. At this moment, her pet brings her some good news. It has discovered where Aiden is hiding. Now, Afshin's last concern is the notebook she handed over to Flanda. But she will find out about that soon. Meanwhile, outside the prison, a large number of rats suddenly appeared. As if receiving some kind of signal, they collectively rushed toward Rose's prison. The scene shifts to the prison's power core, where the guards are currently lacking a commanding officer. They could only let Maddie temporarily take on the important responsibility. She commanded the guards to launch a fierce counterattack. At this moment, the Ant Queen also learned from the Snake Witch about Aiden's presence in the office. This is the opportunity she has been waiting for. Then she suddenly looked up and let out a loud cry. The scene shifts to the prison infirmary. The supposedly unconscious Aya suddenly opened her eyes. Even more bizarre is that the other prisoners also slowly stood up. However, their current state was like zombies. Moreover, 3 tentacles had grown out from their backs. It was previously mentioned that they ate the funeral flower that can control people. The location of the infirmary was very special. It had direct access to Aiden's office. Now his trusted lieutenants have all been dispatched to suppress the riot. And this group of prisoners controlled by the Ant Queen will be the last straw to break Aiden. At this moment, the werewolf once again smelled the scent of the funeral flower. In that instant, she also figured out Ant Queen's plan. But now, the battle for the power core had reached a fever pitch. On one side was Warden Aiden's life, on the other was the last barrier of Rose's prison. How should she choose? In a critical moment, she remembered what Flanda had said to her. If an unexpected situation arises in the future, please abandon everything at hand to protect Lord Aiden. Hearing this, Werewolf was very puzzled. With Lord Aiden's strength, does he still need my protection? After thinking for a long time, Flanda finally decided to tell her the truth. She said that Lord Aiden suddenly lost his memory 2 months ago. Now he is just an ordinary person. The reason for keeping it a secret all along is because there are too few trustworthy people in the prison now. No one can guarantee that there are no spies among the jailers and the district leaders. So I hope that if an unexpected situation arises, please don't forget the original intention of coming to the prison. And now, Werewolf is facing such a situation. On one side is Warden Aiden's life. On the other side is the last line of defense of the prison. At this moment, she suddenly begins to recall. Scenes of Aiden helping to clear her name constantly flashed through her mind. At that time, she was still wearing Aiden's coat. Upon thinking of this, the werewolf made up her mind. She was going to save the person she liked. At the same time, Flanda also ordered everyone to open the passage. This ensures that Werewolf can reach the medical room without any obstacles, thus blocking the prisoners controlled by Ant Queen. At the moment, they pushed the door open. Just then, the transformed werewolf also arrived. This time she will face it. It's a group of prisoners who resemble zombies. As soon as they met, she knocked down a prisoner. But before Werewolf could catch his breath, she was heavily punched by George. The camera cuts to Maddie. After the werewolf left, they began to suffer defeat after defeat. A jailer is very angry. "Is your idea of command to send us to our deaths?" Maddie responds. "It's clearly that you are too weak." She did used to be a commander before, but she was in charge of bandits. Now the jailers are about to hold out no longer. At the critical moment, a bold idea suddenly popped into Maddie's mind. She then ordered the prison guard to blow the retreat whistle. After receiving the order, all the prison guards began to retreat. Seeing this, the Ant Queen hurriedly ordered a pursuit to capitalize on the victory. In no time, a large number of offenders rushed towards the power core. And this was exactly the effect Maddie wanted. She decisively used intrinsic divine power, enchantment. Within just a few seconds, the area was covered by a pink gas. At first, the criminals didn't take it seriously at all. Some even thought it looked kind of nice. After all, who doesn't like pink? But in the next second, that pink gas suddenly became extremely foul-smelling. It was so foul-smelling that they vomited on the spot. Everything was under Maddie's control. This gas can evoke the most primal desires in people. But for women who have no such desire, the smell is just like excrement that has been fermenting for 2.5 years. A jailer understood. He asked, "You're trying to make them vomit continuously, and then have us retreat, right?" She said, "That would be a big mistake. Maddie knows that using this gas here would only disgust the enemy for a moment. But there are a lot of people here. Among hundreds of people, it is quite normal for there to be one woman who is interested in women. And once there is such a woman, she will become Maddie's most loyal puppet." Sure enough, at this moment, our old friend Snake Witch's face was flushed. This feeling of shame intoxicated her. The foul smell of excrement to others was a rich floral fragrance to Snake Witch. At this moment, her hand was suddenly grasped by someone. It was Maddie. In the eyes of the Snake Witch, she was a princess dressed in a noble gown. At this moment, Maddie began to speak. "Dear, this is our wedding ball." Upon hearing this, Snake Witch could hardly believe her ears. She so hoped that all of this wasn't just a dream. Maddie said, "Then you better hold me tight. The wedding is about to start." However, all of this is an illusion. In reality, the Snake Witch is being held by Maddie to launch an attack. And the target of the attack is surprisingly her teammate. The scene cuts to Ant Queen. She learns about Snake Witch's betrayal immediately. However, Ant Queen remains completely unperturbed, because she had long ago planted her mark within Snake Witch's body. At this moment, she suddenly heard other sounds by her ears. The place of the battle is just ahead. Number 13, the designation of the weird creature, clear the way quickly. The ones making the sound were precisely the few succubi who had escaped all the way from the prison. And by making way, she meant letting the weird creature show the Ant Queen the text she had written. It was mentioned earlier that the text written by the weird creature was cursed. Due to the sudden incident, the Ant Queen was completely unprepared. Next, everyone will see Ant Queen's memories from childhood to adulthood. Like many villains, Ant Queen also had a tragic childhood. It was her Gaia mentor who brought her out of the forbidden area. However, due to Gaia consuming a large amount of magic power during the process, it was no longer possible to bring the young Ant Queen out of the forbidden area. So she left the Ant Queen in a hidden tree hole and went back to replenish her magic power first. She planned to come back to pick her up the next day. But as soon as Gaia left, a voice started constantly tempting the Ant Queen. That voice came from Blackie not far away. She let out a creepy laugh and was constantly persuading the Ant Queen to come to her. She said, "Is the child hungry? I have big and fat worms here." This scene terrified the Ant Queen. At this moment, she wished so much that Mentor Gaia were by her side. She started to flee desperately. The will to survive unleashed astonishing power in her small body. But the path was filled with thorns. Where could a little child like her possibly escape to? When she opened her eyes again, she had already been rescued by Gaia. At this moment, she was in Afshin's mansion. At that time, Gaia had no intention of recruiting her into the Witch Union. But at this moment, the weak Ant Queen actually called out "Mama" to her. Gaia thought she was mistaken. She couldn't believe the Ant Queen had mistaken her for its mother. But only the Ant Queen knew. This was merely a means to survive. It turned out that her biological mother would tell her, if she ever had the chance to get out alive, she should call any man she meets Dad. She was very fortunate because Gaia had just experienced the pain of losing her daughter at that time. And what's even more unbelievable is, the young Ant Queen actually bore an 80% resemblance to her deceased daughter. In the end, she became Gaia's direct disciple as she wished. The scene shifts to 1 year later. Ant Queen's first human experiment was discovered by Gaia. She was very angry. How could you, such a young child, bring yourself to do it? Ant Queen cried very sadly. She said, "I'm sorry, Mom. I just wanted to win first place in the competition to make you happy." In the end, Gaia chose to forgive her and sent someone to clean up the mess. The scene shifts to the Witch Apprentice tournament 3 months later. Gaia is presenting an award to the first place contestant. Seated in the audience, the Ant Queen has a face full of sorrow. How she wishes that person could be herself. But due to the limitations of her talent, the Ant Queen has always been the last member of the Witch Union. After returning to her residence, she hid in the arms of a puppet. This was the Gaia she created for herself. In fact, Ant Queen also understood that she was just a substitute for Gaia's biological daughter. If she didn't show some results, Ant Queen would eventually be abandoned. So she once again set her sights on human modification. To deceive everyone, Ant Queen decided to have the modifiers undergo plastic surgery to look like herself. This is because the Witch Union stipulated that only the individual themselves could undergo modification. But it was obvious that this kind of self-deception couldn't fool others. In the end, she was personally expelled from the Witch Union by Gaia. She also coincidentally returned to the Forbidden Area again. At this moment, the Ant Queen was completely in despair because the childhood voice appeared again. "Little bug, you've come back again, huh?" Heavy rain is the main theme of the Forbidden Area. Even the lightning here is a strange green. I believe that everyone can notice the numerous tentacles that appear in the middle. This also implies that the Ant Queen is afflicted with an unspeakable curse. Witch Afshin, seeing that something was wrong, immediately began chanting a spell. As she chanted, Afshin's magic hat slowly transformed into a human face, and a spell was emitted from its mouth. Then, the weird creature turned into an adorable doll. Seeing this, Succubus quickly spoke up. "We are not here to fight you. There are monsters chasing us. Please let us pass." However, the next second, they turned into chibi-style dolls. The cute succubus even transformed directly into a caterpillar. "No matter what, I can't let you disrupt the current situation." As she was speaking, bursts of lightning suddenly came from behind her. This powerful force even made the usually calm Afshin feel startled. And the source of the power was Kinga. As soon as she saw Afshin, she rushed towards him. This scene immediately frightened the timid succubus to tears. At this moment, Afshin began to recite the incantation again. As the incantation was recited, half of her face transformed into that of a demon, and several additional arms emerged. As Kinga was about to approach her, Afshin suddenly shot a magical seal towards her. In an instant, Kinga's figure continuously shrunk. Ultimately, she was fixed inside an eyeball, and a maze was gradually being constructed around her. A few people temporarily escaped from danger, but this hit also consumed a great deal of Afshin's mana. At this moment, the power core area behind her suddenly exploded. It was Maddie who caused the commotion by controlling the Snake Witch. At this time, a jailer said to Maddie, "The deputy warden asked me to tell you that the Snake Witch's anti-magic device has been removed. You can control her at will, but remember to keep her alive." Upon hearing this, Maddie nodded. The scene shifts to Snake Witch's fantasy world. Maddie is getting ready to share a bridal chamber with her. At this moment, Snake Witch is very shy. She says, "Baby, isn't our progress a bit too fast?" Hearing her say this, Maddie slowly rubbed her leg against her a few times. She says, "Don't be nervous, my baby. I have an ancestral massage technique here that can make you feel so good you'll roll your eyes." The scene returns to reality. Under her continuous massage, the Snake Witch completely breaks free from the restraints. She single-handedly held off all the rioting prisoners. At this moment, our old friend Vampire stepped forward. We saw her dodge all the attacks with her movements. In the blink of an eye, she was in front of the Snake Witch. But just as the vampire was about to swing the knife to kill her, several arrows suddenly appeared on her arm. It was Aiden's bounty hunter servant who made the move. Seeing the situation was not in their favor, Vampire quickly transformed back into a bat and fled. The scene shifts to outside the prison. A prison guard is desperately trying to stop the bounty hunters from setting up a defensive line at the prison gate. "You guys need to leave quickly. Be careful not to get killed by the magic circle at the gate." And she is the mole that Anthony planted. At this moment, the district chief emerged and said, "I haven't even spoken. Why are you in such a hurry? I just set up a magic circle." Hearing this, the traitor instantly panicked. She even tried to explain something. The scene shifts back to the prison. At this moment, the bounty hunter has already joined the fight. The current situation is no longer optimistic for the Ant Queen. At this moment, a skeleton suddenly appeared behind them. Afshin recognized it. This was exactly the undead summoned by Asina. He said, "Only this few people have died so far. Can you still fight or not?" Afterwards, Afshin briefly told her what had just happened. After learning about the situation, Asina also expressed her stance. "As long as you can fight Aiden to a draw, I will join you." This way, Ant Queen has gained a lot more chances of winning. At this moment, she thought of the group of prisoners she controlled. She wondered how far they had gotten. Thinking of this, the Ant Queen quickly checked on their situation. The next second, her expression suddenly changed dramatically, because that group of prisoners had been knocked down by the werewolf single-handedly. But she was seriously injured as a result. At that moment, footsteps could be heard again. The person who arrived was none other than the noble Ostina. She slowly pulled out several tentacles from behind her. It was obvious that she too was controlled by the Ant Queen. Earlier, she was playing poker with her friends. Whoever lost had to eat the breakfast sent from the prison. And in it, there was also the funeral flower placed by Ant Queen. However, it seems like she has already broken free from Ant Queen's control. Just as she walked up to Werewolf, Werewolf spoke. "Either go back now," he said, "or die here." Faced with Werewolf's rude words, Ostina laughed. She said, "I didn't expect to encounter such fun with someone like you in prison. It looks like you haven't recovered from primal awareness yet." but I have no intention of returning to the infirmary. Are you sure you want to make a move on me? The camera cuts to action. She says, You're about to face Aiden soon. You better call those so-called daughters of yours right away. Upon hearing this, the Ant Queen said coldly, Don't bother with them anymore. They are no longer of any use. As they were speaking, a small bat flew over. She is our old friend, Vampire. Seeing that the situation was not right, Vampire quickly followed the Ant Queen and the others into the portal. The other prisoners also noticed something unusual. If the Ant Queen escaped, how would this ragtag group manage to break out of prison? At this time, the power core of the prison had been completely taken over by the bounty hunters. It should be noted that their magic is unrestricted. In contrast, the prisoners can only use 10% of their magic power. There are still a large number of prisoners who haven't broken out from both sides of the warning zone. As soon as Ant Queen left, they were thrown into complete chaos. At that moment, Horn Woman suddenly took a punch. She said, Anyway, we have already been abandoned, so we might as well capture you now and make amends. Hearing this, Horn Woman became furious. She unleashed her ultimate move. The prisoner from earlier was instantly pinned to the spot. Her friend Water Monster was furious on the spot. She said, You actually killed my best friend. At this moment, Horn Woman also realized something was wrong. With her current magical power, she couldn't kill anyone. She said, It was the magic suppressing collar that failed at the moment she cast the spell. However, nobody believed her explanation. The two groups quickly started quarreling. The scene shifts to Flanda, who is in prison power core. She lifts the restrictions on inmate 1890. She is about to have a confrontation with 1240. Upon hearing this, the warden of District 4 immediately began to review the files of both individuals. 1240 is a water monster with a sea-level danger rating. She is also the dead inmate's friend. 1890 has a B-level danger rating. She is Horn Woman's friend. According to the analysis of District 4 leader, as long as 1890's magic suppressing collar is lowered to level 3, 1240 can be killed with one move. At the same time, the two have already started fighting. At the moment the two made their move, Flanda immediately ordered a power reduction. After receiving the order, the jailer immediately took action. As her magic power recovered, Baijio surprisingly managed to defeat the water monster in one move. And all of this was prearranged by Warden Aiden. By fine-tuning the collar to eliminate some unimportant troublemakers. This way, Parliament cannot be held accountable afterward. On the other hand, it can make the suspicious action apprehensive, allowing Aiden to find her flaws and deal with her. As expected, Action's expression indeed became serious. She didn't understand what Aiden was up to again. If they wanted to kill a group of criminals, why go through all this trouble? However, at this point, she had no way out. The scene shifts to Warden Aiden's office. Asina calmly said to him, Warden, they are coming right away. Upon hearing this, Aiden's eyes instantly became sharp. He had been waiting for this moment for a long time. The scene shifts to the prison lobby. Ant Queen arrives here with a large group of henchmen. She said, Good afternoon, my dear Warden. I didn't expect you to come out and greet me in person. I'm truly flattered. He said, Good afternoon, 3340. Oh no, perhaps it would be more appropriate to call you Isabella. As he was speaking, the Ant Queen had already completed her transformation. A great battle was inevitable. Warden Aiden's true strength will soon be revealed.